Hello, my lovely.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy, by the way, that you're here. It's so funny because this is a very last minute episode.
I know.
Like super, super last minute.
Yeah. Like the stars are aligned for this episode to happen.
Really? Because I messaged you last night because I was supposed to interview someone else and she's not feeling too well. So she's like, I don't want to sound like a teenage boy, like
Yeah.
all congested and stuff.
And then I had the session and it got cancelled.
Yes.
So
it all worked out.
we're here.
So I feel like we're meant to be here together. And today's conversation is around intuition. You talk about intuitive eating all the time. So I'm trying to talk about your area of expertise, but take it into a different area of your life.
Yeah. I like that. I think I haven't talked about it.
I don't think so. You talk about a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
I love everything that I've learned from you, whether it was like body image or food and the diet culture. Like, we have so many beautiful conversations, and it could be that we touch upon them. But what I really wanted to hear from you today is like, how are you intuitive in your own life, not just in food?
Wow.
It's a big question.
It's a big question.
It's a big question.
Okay. بس عم فكر إنه I'm really thinking of like where I'm intuitive in my life, like maybe in my relationship, also in choosing my work and shifting or pivoting in my career. Also with I'm not gonna say I was intuitive about moving to Dubai because my intuition tells me otherwise, but I'm here.
Okay, so your intuition tells you to stay in Lebanon. Is that what you feel?
Yeah, because for me, intuition is something that your body will give you messages. Like a lot of people, let's say, they mix between intuition and fear. And for me, fear is in your brain, but intuition is in your body. Okay, so I always feel like my body tells me answers when I'm confused in life, like whether it's a relationship, whether it's what I'm doing, my work, whether it's the country I live in. I feel like my nervous system feels a lot more calm when I'm in Lebanon than when I'm here, but maybe it's natural because I lived there all my life and this is very new to me. So maybe for my nervous system, it's not used to, I don't know, like this many buildings. I'm very used to living in nature.
Yeah, by the way, you always
nature.
talk about your home in south of Lebanon and the trees and the connection you have to them.
Yeah.
The connection that your father has to them as well.
Yeah. I feel like I told you once, like I feel that they're my sisters.
Yes, you
Like
said
I've
that.
seen them grow with me as I grow. So I'm very connected to like my roots. I'm very connected to the land. I'm very connected to the trees. So my whole like body and nervous system feels a lot more safe and calm there, even though in reality, if I want to be logical about it, it's not safe at all. Because I was there like a few weeks ago, and we all know the situation in south of Lebanon. Like you would hear planes, you would hear stuff, but then I'm a lot calmer. And I'm not, I don't feel scared.
Is it because you're with your family and you feel like at least you're around them?
Exactly.
And then when you're here, the fear is greater because you're not with them.
Yeah.
So your mind is constantly thinking, what is happening? What is going on? Are they going to be safe? Is something going to happen?
Yeah, definitely. But I find it fascinating.
It is very fascinating. Intuition is a very fascinating thing. It never makes sense, by the way.
Yeah.
It never makes sense. Intuition doesn't make sense. I do, like you, believe that it comes from within the body versus like the mind and the thoughts. And so it's interesting that for you that Dubai feels intuitively off in a lot of ways, but also there must be things that feel right.
Yeah. It's just a big change, I would say. Like maybe this is where my brain comes in and resists change because it's, I wasn't the type of person that traveled or moved a lot in my life. I always lived in the same home since I was born.
Yeah.
You know, always lived in the same village. So for me, it's like 30 years of being in one place, getting used to the system. And then, no, it was 29 years.
I like
But
that.
also a lot. And then you're like, okay, new life, new city. And it's very different. It's much faster. Like life in a village is definitely a lot slower. There are a lot of more human connection. So let's say our house is here. My aunt's house is like right next to us. Families around. The people I went to school with, the people I went to university with. So you feel like things are like you're part of a certain community a lot more than when you move here. So like I have friends, I would see, I see you, I see
Yes.
like,
But it's crazy because we haven't seen each other in 2 months.
Exactly.
Right? So like Dubai is the city where people are always moving around.
and people are so consumed, I feel, by their careers. For us to go out of the house, it takes longer. Like for me, in let's say in Lebanon, like I would leave the house and I would go and park my car anywhere. Like even if it's
A no
let's
parking
say
spot.
a no parking spot, and then no one would say anything about it. But here we have to go into the parking. We have to go to like I don't know how many floors, and then
Yeah.
you need like 15 minutes to get out of the building and 15 minutes to park, and then things take a lot more time. I feel like time passes here a lot faster. So yeah, it's just a different kind of life.
Yeah, different pace as well, for
Different
sure.
pace.
Yeah, life pace, everything is different here.
And our brain doesn't like change.
I was actually going to talk about change with you. So when it comes to food and changing from the diet culture, right, to intuitive eating, that's a change.
Yeah.
So how would you train someone through that change of, okay, this is what you're so used to before, which was not healthy for you, right? Because diet culture, we know
Yeah.
all of the side effects that come with it that is detrimental to someone's like mental health and physical well-being too. So then to move them from that way to okay, let's eat intuitively, how would you approach that?
Yeah, there's always a transition phase. And there's a very nice exercise that I give to clients where I feel they expect things to change really fast or they have resistance, which is the right hand and left hand exercise. So I would ask them to write their name with the right hand
Okay.
and to just feel, to just take a notice how it feels like. Okay, this is how I'm used to writing my name. It's very easy. It looks good. La la la. Okay, and then I would ask them to write their name with their left hand. And then they would start and they would feel frustrated and then it doesn't look good and why is it like this? And sometimes they would get angry at themselves or they would judge themselves. And then many feelings would come up. And then I tell them this is exactly what's going to happen with you in this journey. Because if your brain is used to writing with the right hand, so it's used to taking, let's say, when it comes to diet culture, taking orders from the external world, like eat this, don't eat this, have this in the morning, this for lunch, this for dinner. And then you come and you're like, I want to listen to my body. You're not going to be able to listen to your body directly. Like there is a lot of ups and downs that are going to happen, trial and error. And then also you need a lot of guidance when you start intuitive eating. And this is what a lot of people don't really talk about. You know, intuitive eating at the beginning is not very intuitive, actually, because you lost the connection with your instinct, you lost the connection with your hunger and fullness and satisfaction, and you need time in order to reconnect to them. So there's this transition phase where you would still need guidance, where you would need guidelines, where you would need okay, don't go more than 5 hours with no food. Let's find a flexible schedule for you. Let's make space for, let's say, feelings that come up maybe guilt, maybe shame around food or body. So there's a lot that happens in the transition phase before it's actually intuitive. And there are 5 stages to intuitive eating, and I can share that with
Yeah,
you.
definitely share them.
So the first stage is when you hit the diet bottom. So you're like, I've dieted all my life. I'm not getting to the result I want. If anything, I lose weight and then I regain more. I feel scared and guilty around food, and it's just not serving me. I can't go out. It's affecting my social life. It's affecting my relationships. So you're like, this is not how I want to live my life. And you're like, okay, I don't want to diet anymore. So this is the first stage. The second stage of intuitive eating, we call it the honeymoon phase.
Okay.
Okay. So this is where you're trying. You're like, okay, I've been restricting this food for so long. I'm going to try to include it now and see what happens, let's say. So it can sound a bit scary for some people, but this is where I think people need the most support and the most guidance, because if you do it randomly, you might end up feeling like it doesn't work. A lot of people, intuitive eating doesn't work for me. Maybe they started to get into stage 2 and then they felt scared, or they did it the wrong way.
Is it because also there's a lack of trust within themselves, right? Because you don't trust yourself that you're going to be able to create so much flexibility in your life and to rely on yourself to choose what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, when you're hungry, when you're full. Are you going to be swayed by other people and how they're eating? So I feel like it has a lot to do with like your ability to trust yourself.
Absolutely, because when you diet, like how it's made, it makes you not trust your body. It wants you, like the diet culture, it's telling you, don't trust your body. You need a diet. You need that pill. You need that product. This is how they make money. The Ozempic, the keto diet, I don't know why. It's like there are millions of products out there. So they want you to feel like you can't trust your body. Because if you actually trust your body, you're not going to buy their products.
Yeah, it makes a lot of money.
Exactly.
Out of your insecurities.
$270 billion industry. Imagine. This is how much they make per year. So a lot of marketing, a lot of
sneaky ways, by the way, of doing it.
Very sneaky ways.
Super sneaky. TV shows, movies, music.
I was watching The Devils Wear Prada the other day, and I was like, now I understand. Because I watched it, I was like super young. I didn't know that these were like diet culture messages. But then I watched it again, and like how they criticized her, and she's already very skinny, and they're like, don't eat this if you want to look like the girls in the office. You have to eat, I don't know what, like salads.
Yeah.
Or
if even a leaf.
A leaf. And then another girl was like, okay, I'm on a low carb diet. If I'm hungry, I just have a piece of cheese. And then this is how I look good. Or this is how I lost weight. So there are so many ways to
program us from a young age.
Even friends. Like I feel they bullied Monica when she was bigger.
Yeah, she bullied herself too.
She bullied herself, and
because she was bullied, so she didn't know anything else. She didn't know better, right? Like, I really believe that we're a product of our conditioning. So if people are judging you for looking a certain way, I mean, talking about Lebanon, every summer, I would go back and it's like, you gained weight, you lost weight.
Yeah.
You look good when you look a certain way. Oh, now you don't look so good. You should, maybe not eat that. Maybe start working out more, like your arms are getting big. There's always these comments that were said. I mean, I remember the first comment I got on my body, I was probably like 12.
I was younger.
So you have a lot of insecurities already starting to happen at 12 years old. And I had stretch marks already. I mean, I wouldn't say like it's a shock because you're growing in size, right?
Yeah.
And my grandmother, my tita, was the one that was like, oh, you already have stretch marks. And I was like, she had major insecurities with her own body.
Yeah.
So she was just projecting it onto me. And that's the thing. It's usually people that have also been projected on for so long about their bodies. And that's the narrative. They're obviously going to bring that out and say it to you.
Yeah, I thought it was something new. Definitely, we have more body image issues nowadays than before. But I was in a museum in Amsterdam like a few months ago, and there's a whole section about the corset that they used to wear. And apparently, I'm saying this is a story from like the 1800s.
Okay.
They used to make girls wear the corset since the age of 4 in order to like mold their bodies, in order for them to have a hourglass
The
figure.
hourglass figure.
So I was like, okay, body image issues are not something that's new. Like we've been suffering from that for so long. And on this on this section of the museum, they're like the doctors used to tell them that it's bad for the health, but they don't care about women's health. They just care about how a woman looks. And this goes back to like objectifying women's bodies and all of that story. So yeah, it's not something that's new. I feel like we hold it in our genes as well.
It's definitely something that is very, very old because, I mean, I'm talking my grandmother, but you're talking the 1800s. And what's interesting, though, is that depending on the century, you also have different versions, right? Because I remember we were learning this in our Spanish class in high school, where in the past, women that were curvier were more attractive.
Definitely.
And if we look at paintings, they were always super curvy because it meant that they were rich. They had food, right? And so the one that was skinny and tanned was the one that was poor because she was working outside under the sun. So she was the skinnier one. She was more tanned in skin color. And the one that was like super like fair and super like plump was from the aristocracies. So also it's interesting how we see very clearly that these beauty trends, they do change. I mean, sometimes it takes a century to change, but we always move around. So I mean, even for us, the 30 years that we've been alive, there's so many different phases that we've seen.
So many trends.
So many trends. And it's crazy to see them and then to feel like, okay, like now I accept my body because the trend is to be curvy.
Yeah.
Now I don't accept my body because the trend is to be super skinny. And I have to now also be super muscular. And you talk about this a lot, like, you know, the 6-pack for women and like how it's not necessarily like the best thing for us. But like some women, that's the aesthetic that they like. And also it could make them feel really good. So that's the thing as well with all of these things. There's enough shame in the world already to not add more to it.
I think there's a lot of brainwashing that happens for us to just hate our bodies. Because again, we go back to the same goal, which is making more money. Okay, all of these companies, they want us to hate our bodies. So if we don't hate our bodies, who's gonna do the body contouring? Who's gonna do the surgeries? Who's gonna buy the products? So there's a quote, I don't know who said it. I think it was Rupi. She's like, if women woke up tomorrow loving their bodies, imagine how many industries would just go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Because they're all they all focus on women.
Yeah. Although I have to say, I know a lot of men that suffer with this too.
Yeah.
I do know a few of them. They don't want to eat.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm on the air diet. Like, I can't eat this much. I can't drink this much. And then if they're in partnership, then they're really like intent on their partners about the food that they eat.
So I feel like the industry is also now focusing on men more than before. But historically, it has been more directed towards women than men.
For sure.
Yeah.
And now I do feel like men are also taking a hit with this.
because I noticed from my husband, he's very intuitive. He doesn't care about how he looks. He doesn't objectify himself. Like, I never saw him like look at the mirror and say, okay, I look fat. Never.
Okay.
You know, like, he doesn't focus on that. He has other things on his mind. Like, he's focusing on his career, thinking about his family, responsibilities, and that's it for him. Like, he has all the mental space,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
to grow. But for us, like, our mental space, they want us to stay in this box where half of our mental space, if not more, is just directed towards looking pretty.
Yes.
You know, and it's not just body,
No,
it's also like our face, our surgeries, the makeup, the hair, all of these things. So and I was reading an article recently, and it was about cellulite, because
yes. I love that reel that
yeah.
you did. It was so good. So good.
So I was reading, why did they start targeting women more? Because they're like, okay, we have half the population, men, that we're making money off of them. Okay. Then the other half, we're not actually making money off of them. Let's see how we can use it in a way. And then they're like, okay, let's do these beauty products. Like, let's make them hate their cellulites, because no one talked about cellulites before 1968. It wasn't even like a thing. It was just skin. Like, this is how skin looked, you know?
Yeah.
But then they created this standard of smooth skin, and then everyone started doing these procedures or buying these products or these creams to get rid of cellulite. And the list goes on. Yani. It's not just cellulite. It's
It's
everything.
wrinkles.
Yeah. Now anti-aging, the anti-aging industry is like a huge
It's a huge industry.
Yeah.
And it's seen as rebellious if you don't dye your hair anymore and you just show your gray hairs, right? It's like you're being a bit of a rebel, like doing it. And there is also movement. I do see it, because I feel like also I'm very picky and selective with who I choose to follow on social media. And I like to follow those that do talk about real things versus like curating a perfectly looking Instagram or TikTok account or whatever, where they're really being vulnerable or talking about these types of things and showcasing their selves in many different lights. Yes, they show themselves when they look amazing, and they also show themselves when they don't look so great.
Yeah.
And they do both. And I love that, because that's the thing. It's like we're changing beings. Every day we look different. Our bodies look different. Some days I'm bloated. Some days I'm not. Some days I feel really good in my skin. Some days I don't.
Yeah.
And I would say that there was something that I learned that was super important, is it doesn't matter what you ate yesterday. You don't deprive yourself of food today because of what you ate yesterday.
Definitely.
And some people get into that pattern. Oh, you know what? Like yesterday, I overate. So today I'm not going to eat at all. And that's not how I feel like. It's not a sustainable way of moving with life. It's like, okay, you didn't eat very well yesterday. Choose better foods today for you to eat, in the sense of like foods that are going to nourish you, foods that are going to help your gut, foods that are gonna increase your energy, not decrease you energetically. Because I've realized as well, and this was something I realized very recently, when I feel bad and I feel sick, I also want to eat badly. Badly in the sense, I know I'm not supposed to use like the word bad.
I was trying to understand.
Yeah, I eat foods that won't necessarily make me feel better.
Yeah,
It's like I'm feeling bad, I'm gonna make myself feel worse.
Yeah, and this is the thing with guilt around food, because a lot of people, not a lot of people, research says that, you know, if you feel guilty around food, you will eventually eat more. Okay, and it's the idea of energy flows where attention goes. Okay, so if you're like, I ate so much, I ate a burger, I'm not eating well, la la la. Your energy is focused on that, so you're gonna attract more of it. Okay, but if you're like, okay, I ate, خلصت. It's done. Let's move on. How can I find balance? Or let me actually connect to my body, because this is what your mind is telling you. Your mind is feeling the guilt. Your mind is feeding that feeling. So if you're say, okay, this happened, done. Let me switch the awareness to how my body feels. How does my stomach feel? How's my energy? What am I craving? What's gonna make me feel better? Then this is what you're gonna attract. So a lot of the work in intuitive eating is getting out of your mind and your head and getting into your body. But this needs a lot of practice, and this takes us to the stages that
I
I
was
was
going to
telling
bring
you
it up
about.
because we did two of the stages. First
Yeah, and they're
was
hitting diet bottom, and then the second is the exploration or the
the
honeymoon phase. And this is where I was saying you need a lot of guidance, and you might feel lost, you might feel scared, and it's completely okay. I like to do things in a very gradual way. So if someone is working like one-on-one with me, I go into like the details of what food we will include this week. How are we going to do it? We're not going to do it randomly. We're going to choose a time where you're not too hungry, not too full, where you feel safe in the environment, where you're mindful, on a day where you're not feeling super stressed. And let's choose that day to include the food that you've been restricting, and let's see how you feel. Do you really like it, or you just thought you like it because you restricted it? How was the experience? How did you feel before? What were your thoughts before, during, and after? So we go through that full experience to unpack and understand more, like the belief system that this person has around food and how it's impacting the whole eating behavior. So this is just an example of how much we give guidance and support in that stage, because it's the trickiest one. Okay. And then we have stage 3, which is the stage where you're able to say, okay, I am full, I'm going to stop. Okay. Or you look at the plate is not done yet, let's say, but you're like, I'm actually full. I don't want any more. And this actually doesn't need willpower.
interesting. Okay.
Because everyone thinks, and no, I need willpower in order to stop eating. It doesn't need willpower. It needs a mindset shift. And it needs the feeling of abundance around food.
I love that.
Yeah. Because
Yes.
when you're in the diet mindset, you always have the mindset of lack around food. I can eat just this. This is the amount of food I'm supposed to have. Or tomorrow I'm gonna start dieting. Today I have all this food. Tomorrow I'm not gonna have it. So and naturally our brain, whenever like the brain feels that you're gonna restrict after, your brain is gonna say, okay, this is my only opportunity to eat. I want to eat more and more and more and more, and you won't be able to stop. So when you have that feeling of I'm not gonna restrict later, food's gonna be here today, tomorrow, after tomorrow, in a week, in a month. I can choose when I want to have it. There's a very nice sense of calmness and abundance around food. So you're able to say, okay, I'm full. My stomach feels good right now. I'm going to stop because I know I can eat it later.
It's so true, by the way. And I
Yeah.
love this example because I just experienced it for
Really?
myself. And I can share it with you.
Yeah.
So I was in France,
Okay.
and I'm not someone that eats cheese very often. It's very rare for me to eat cheese. I'm lactose intolerant. So if I choose to eat cheese, it's usually like sheep or goat. I saw like a whole bunch of goat cheese, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'll have a bit. So the way that I used to eat it is like cheese with jam
Okay.
on a piece of bread. Now, the thing is, they had gluten-free bread, but it comes in a plastic bag. And, you know, I know that there is a lot of chemicals in that gluten-free bread. I know,
Okay.
because I know what they put in gluten-free bread. I've read the ingredients, and they're not ingredients. They're fake ingredients, right? That's the thing. There's a lot of fake food out there. So I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna go for the regular bread, which, again, by the way, I don't usually do it because I'm gluten intolerant, or I have been gluten intolerant. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's try. So I remove all the fluff from inside of the bread and I like have it. And obviously, an addiction was created, right? Because now, what do I want to have? Not just for breakfast the next day. What do I want to have for dinner that evening? I want to have the same thing. So I order it again. And then I wake up in the morning and I want to have it again. And then that night, I want to have it again. So for like 3 days, I'm in this place. I wanted to have the goat cheese, the jam, and the bread. And it's because I don't usually have it. For so long, I've not thought that I was depriving myself. It's not like I thought to myself, oh, I'm depriving myself and I'm not having these things. But I now see that there was deprivation around this. There had to be, because I went full force on it, thinking about it, wanting it so much. And I wasn't guilt tripping myself at all. I was like, I'm gonna have it, I'm gonna enjoy it. This is this special moment in time where I'm doing it. However, what I'm hearing from you as well, and what I'm feeling inside of me is, if I were to want it now, let's say, while I'm not in that setting, I could also go down that path. Like, I could also open up that door a bit more and not keep it so shut, in the sense of I can go and have it now, because there's an abundance of it. Because the reason why I was doing that before was because there was lack. There was lack of it in my life and my diet for so long, that when it was there, it was like, let me stuff my face with it because I'm not gonna do this again.
Exactly.
If I were to be like, I'm gonna do this again in a week's time or whenever I want, then I won't go down that path of I'm gonna have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because I'm not gonna have it once I'm out of this space.
Yeah, exactly. There are two things that happen usually when you restrict. There's the reaction, you know, like there's the cycle. There's the restrict, overeat, and then restrict, overeat cycle. So whenever you restrict, there's an intense feeling of I want to have a lot of that. And then there's also the fear of future deprivation, which is what we're talking about, which is the feeling of abundance. Whenever you think I'm gonna restrict in the future, or let's say in summer, since summer is starting soon, a lot of people, okay, I'll start dieting after summer. Just this thought.
After summer or before summer?
Before and after.
Because I feel like people want to go into summer like having a certain body type.
Yeah. But also when you're in summer,
you eat more.
You eat more and you're around friends and you're going out and you're like, okay, I'll diet after. Just the thought of saying I will diet after, you trigger the feeling of lack around food. You're not going to be able to say, okay, I'm done, I will stop. You're going to be like, but I won't be able to eat that when summer's done. So let me eat more now. Okay, so the fear of future deprivation, or the plan, when you plan to restrict in the future, you're indirectly telling your brain, eat more now. So that's the thing.
That's the thing.
And it's not willpower, because a lot of people think it's willpower. No, it's a mindset.
It is a mindset, by the way, because I believe that I have very strong willpower. Like, I do have strong willpower. So this was not a willpower thing. This was a mindset thing. This was really going from, I haven't had this for so long, I've been in lack, to now seeing it as, wait, there's abundance here. It's not lack. And that's the shift. And I really love that shift in belief system, because I've been working on abundance in all areas of my life. And now it's like bringing that into food as well. And I feel like this is something that can be really useful to the listeners that are in that diet culture, to really see that actually you can eat what you want to eat. It's just checking in with yourself, with your hunger. Are you actually hungry for this? Do you want this? And to also know that they can have it again.
Exactly. I think
so they can have a smaller piece if they need to have a smaller piece, or they want to not have the whole thing.
Like I'll just share a practical example of what I do. Let's say if I'm traveling or if there's something that I don't usually eat that's there. So I like to first sit and like have it on a plate and tell my brain that I'm eating. Because if you're just taking a bit of, if you're opening the fridge and then taking the piece of chocolate and eating it while standing or while driving or while doing anything else, your brain is not gonna register that you did that. You're not gonna enjoy it as much. So I make sure I'm giving it the respect
I
it
love that.
deserves. Uh,
It's
so
like blessing your food as well. Like you're creating a
yeah,
full body, mental connection and spirit connection with the food that is being offered to you.
exactly. So this is one. And two, I don't put in my plate a big quantity. Like I start with a smaller quantity and then I really try to eat as mindfully as possible. I know we're not living in a temple and I know that it's not always realistic to sit and eat like super mindfully, but as mindfully as I can. And I try to engage my senses because there's something called sensory fullness. So the more you enjoy food, and the more you like the flavor of the food you choose, the faster you're gonna feel full. Okay, so I engage my senses, and then when I'm done, I decide to take like a break. It could be a 1 minute break, it could be a 5 minutes break. And then after that, I ask myself, do I want more or am I good? You know? So this usually helps me a lot in connecting to myself. I create the environment around me that's gonna help me to connect to myself. Um, but it actually depends on every case. So some people they might not be ready for that. They might need to go through a lot of unlearnings or a lot of mindset shifts before being able to say, okay, I'm gonna stop. This is why it's stage 3. I'm gonna now move on and tell you about stage 4.
Yes.
And I love the name of this stage because it's called the intuitive eater reawakening the intuitive eater. So it's not like it's something new because we are all born intuitive eaters. Okay, so babies, when they're born, they know when they're hungry, they know when to stop. Their cues are very clear. They don't have any beliefs around food or any morality around food of this is good or this is bad. They just have it instinctively. So we all have it within us. It's just that we have a lot of experiences and we consumed a lot of information, and our belief system around the belief system that is very spread around us is letting that intuitive eater be very shy within us. But with the right work and coaching, etc., the intuitive eater will reawaken. Okay.
And it's empowering for sure.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer being influenced by the external anymore. It's this voice coming from within you.
Yeah.
And because it's interesting, there's so many influencers out there, what I eat in a day, right? Or like, this is not the right way to eat, this is the right way to eat. And there's a lot
So
of stuff
confusing.
around that. It's confusing.
It's so confusing.
It's very confusing for the person that isn't digging deeper or that is taking their information and sourcing their information from so many different sources.
Yeah.
And then what you're doing while you're coming to intuitive eating is you're cutting yourself off from these sources and connecting to your own source of information, which is
Yeah.
the most powerful thing. It's all about your own power, not about giving it to others.
But also, there's a point that I want to share. It's intuitive eating is not just about listening to your instinct. So it's a dynamic interplay between instinct, which is your body's messaging, what your body's telling you, your feelings, and your brain, your thoughts. Okay, so the last principle, and they decided to put it as the last principle because there's a lot of work to be done before you're ready to do that. But in the last principle, we say that Okay, you need to listen to your own body, like the cues, the feeling, etc. But also, it doesn't hurt for you to know the guidelines. Like, and you take it from reliable sources, obviously, but to know the guidelines that will make you healthier, not following the external guidelines blindly, but also not ignoring them completely. Finding that balance between, okay, there are guidelines, they're not rules. They're telling us, for example, eat more fibers. I'm not gonna deny that fibers are actually gonna make us healthier, are good for our gut, or probiotics. Or including, let's say, a source of protein in every meal will make you more full. Like, these are all information that are true
Accurate.
and accurate. So why not benefit from them, but also find a way to create that balance between
Yes.
the external guidelines. And I focus on the word guidelines, they're not rules. Because if it's a rule, it's ignoring your cues. If it's a guideline, it's telling you this is what's out there, but take from it what works for you.
I love that.
Okay?
It's a balance, basically. It's a dance
Exactly.
between both.
100%.
It's a dance between both.
But I wanted to clarify it because there's a lot of criticism nowadays on intuitive eating. A lot of people think it's like about not taking care of yourself. Some people say it's promoting obesity. Some people say, how can I listen to my body? This is not scientific. No, this is not the extreme that we promote as intuitive eating dietitians. There's always a balance, and taking care of your health is the priority.
So, for example, someone like me, when I struggled with something like candida and all of these food intolerances, intuitively eating would be to remove certain food items for some time.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't be to eat these things because it is causing inflammation and skin issues and all of these different things that I was experiencing.
But what's important is the intention behind that. So your intention when you remove these foods is self-care. So I want to take care of my body. Or like if you eat something and it creates a very annoying symptom, you're not gonna want to eat it again.
Exactly.
Like intuitively, your body will tell you if you eat this, you're gonna feel really sick. So you're not gonna want to include it again. So I just wanted to clarify and know, okay, intuitive eating, we listen to our bodies, we notice the cues, we notice how we feel, but also there are things that we can take, like a bit of things that we can take from the external world. Like we don't have to disconnect them completely. Like it's either the internal world or it's either the external world. No, it can be both, and they can work. They can dance together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I really, really love that. So the fifth one, what's our fifth one?
And the fifth one is treasure the pleasure.
Oh, yes.
So it becomes easy, it becomes natural. You don't have to put any effort, like much effort anymore. Like it just happens very smoothly. You don't think about food too much. You're able to find the balance. You choose the food that feel good to your body, and it just becomes easy. So, and some people think, okay, I started intuitive eating today, it's going to be easy tomorrow. No. There are 5 stages, and then you get to the part where you're not putting effort. There's a lot of effort that we put at the beginning, but with dieting, it's easy in the beginning, but then it becomes harder by the day. Okay? Like first they give you a diet, you're like, okay, I have the motivation, I'm gonna follow it, amazing. 1 week goes by, you're like, great, and then 2 weeks you're like, oh, it's so hard, and then third week you're binging. So it becomes harder. But with intuitive eating, you put the effort in the beginning, you might feel, okay, it's hard, but with time it's going to be easier and easier and easier, because you're just reconnecting to how our bodies were created from like centuries ago.
And it becomes a pleasant experience. It becomes one of those things that you enjoy, and you enjoy with yourself, and you enjoy in the company of others. And yeah, there's like a lot of joy in eating for sure. And we need to bring back the joy in eating food.
There is wisdom in enjoying food.
There is wisdom in enjoying food for sure.
Like I was
And
thinking about it. I was
yeah.
like, why did God put taste buds on our tongue if he didn't want us to enjoy food?
I love that thought.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and no, there's so much wisdom in everything that God put into our body. And taste buds is one of them.
Taste buds is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And like, how sad is it when you're sick and you can't taste food? Like, nothing tastes good, literally.
And there's a study, by the way, they gave two groups of people different foods. Okay. So one group, they gave them the food that they like, the cultural food that they're used to. And the other group, they gave them like food that has the same nutritional value, but it's not as delicious to them. And they noticed that the group that enjoyed food actually absorbed more vitamins and minerals from food. The digestion was better. So there's a very positive impact to enjoying food, even on like the absorption, on how nourishing it will be for you. So
I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, because again, it feels to me like an embodiment of all of you enjoying the experience of food. Like that's how intuitive eating feels like to me. It's like you're really including so many aspects of a being when it comes to eating. Belief systems, emotions, the connection that you make when you're eating your food, settling yourself down to eat, like all of these things. It's like retraining yourself actually to commune with food versus like being disconnected from the food that you're eating, looking at it as like such a bad thing, and really reshaping the relationship that you have with it, because I feel like that's what it does. And like following your intuition in real life takes practice and trial and error and figuring out whether the move that you made here to Dubai is the right one or the wrong one. Like things are gonna show up in the ways that it needs to show you whether it was the right decision or not, and whether it was your fear or your intuition. And it's a practice. I personally believe, as someone that's taken lots of leaps of faith in my life, that you never regret the changes that you do make towards knowing yourself more and connecting to yourself deeper, and also like connecting to the world as well. Like I feel like, and these are all the principles that you've been mentioning, and like your own way, in your own language.
And I believe everything happens for a reason. Like even if you're in a place where, let's say, intuitively you feel like it's not where, let's say, I need to be right now, maybe it's you're going through this experience to learn something, to be ready for something else. There's always something that you can take from every experience. And it can be also connecting more deeply to your intuition, trusting yourself, trusting your intuition even more.
Because it is all related to the gut as well. So I would imagine that your intuition just heightens in other areas of your life. And it's taking these principles and moving them as well.
Yeah, like my family, they're like, you don't have to compare everything to intuitive eating. Like whatever happens, I'm like, yeah, in intuitive eating, they say we have to listen to our external world and internal world and find the balance. And then I use the same examples for things that are happening in real
You can
life.
always.
Yeah, so it doesn't, like the way of thinking that you learn or the tools that you learn in intuitive eating, they don't just change your eating. They would change your life, because they're also make you notice like where in your life you're not I don't want to say happy, but you're not fulfilled, or what needs do you have that are unmet, because this is where emotional eating comes in. So it gives you guidance on what you need to work on in real life as well. I believe this is where all the eating problems come in. And yeah, it's all related. It's a
Everything is always connected.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, the time passed by so
Yeah,
fast. Yeah,
I know.
I know. But it was so nice speaking to you about all of these things. And I feel like we could take each of these guidelines and like open them up and discuss them so much deeper. And this is the second time I interview you, by the way. The first time was
Yeah.
like ages ago. We hadn't even properly like met and connected back then. And a lot of the principles you shared with me stayed with me.
Really?
So yeah, 100%. So a lot of the things that you shared today are going to stick with me right now. And thank you so much for being here. I want to
Thank
give
you
you a
for
hug.
having
So
me.
I'll
Oh.
love hugs. I love hugs. Thank you. And you